Today, we're going to talk about the 5 biggest energy drainers and how to get rid of them. Most modern diseases, diabetes, hypertension, gastritis, cancer, share one common root cause. And this cause isn't in your genetics, isn't in the environment, but in how you manage your energy. Recent research has revealed a startling fact. Every single day, between 50,000 and 70,000 thoughts pass through your consciousness. And only a handful of them are actually productive. Everything else? Informational noise that creates a massive load on your psyche and literally drains your life force. The primary cause of energy loss is the inability to control your own mind. Today, we're going to break down the mechanisms of this process from neurophysiological and psychological perspectives. Part 1. The foundation. 2 types of energy. There are 2 types of energy, physical and psycho-emotional. And they're so interconnected that losing one inevitably leads to the exhaustion of the other. Physical energy and the neurophysiology of stress. Our physical energy isn't just the ability to move and work. It's a complex biochemical system that we constantly sabotage through poor sleep habits, lack of physical activity, and most critically, our inability to manage stress. In our brain, there's a structure called the reticular formation. Think of it as an early warning system that continuously analyzes all external stimuli for their significance and potential danger. When this system detects a threat or important event, decision-making is handled by the amygdala, your brain's alarm system. If there's enough information to make a decision, we act, and our body naturally processes the released stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, excess glucose. But when information is insufficient, we experience anxiety and fear, which triggers a cascade of physiological reactions. Hans Selye, the father of stress research, introduced the concept of distress, a destructive form of stress that occurs with prolonged exposure to stressors without the possibility of resolution. If acute stress lasts 5 minutes, that's an adaptive response. But when this state stretches into days, months, years, it literally destroys the body. Here's the destruction mechanism. Chronically elevated cortisol and adrenaline levels, constantly high blood glucose, blood flow redistribution from internal organs to muscles and brain, elevated blood pressure, blood thickening, tachycardia, rapid breathing. All of this eventually leads to type 2 diabetes, hypertension, irritable bowel syndrome, and ulcers. Chronic blood flow reduction to the pelvic organs causes urethritis, cystitis, prostatitis, and dysbiosis. Long-term chronic stress creates conditions for cancer development. Most diseases that shorten our lives are direct consequences of distress. Here's the crucial point. People who move toward meaningful goals, especially goals that extend beyond their own lives, and take concrete steps daily, naturally metabolize these stress hormones. They live longer and get sick less. Action and movement toward a goal isn't just motivation. It's a biochemical mechanism for life extension. Part 2. 5 major factors of psycho-emotional energy loss. Now let's dive into the psycho-emotional component. There are 5 key factors that systematically drain our internal resources. Factor 1. Toxic environment. There's a category of people who objectively cannot be helped. Here's a fitting metaphor about rescuing a drowning person. If you're standing in a boat trying to pull someone from the water, the outcome depends on their actions. If they actively help themselves, kicking, reaching, trying to climb up, you'll save them. But if they make zero effort, the boat loses its center of gravity, and you both end up in the water. This is a fundamental principle. If a person won't help themselves, you cannot help them. We call these people toxic. They constantly complain, point to external circumstances, but categorically refuse to take action to change their situation. Even if you provide them with resources, financial, time, emotional, they'll find a way to misuse them. Interacting with such people leads to constant energy leakage without any positive result. Factor 2. Unfinished business. Every unfinished task is a source of chronic micro-stress. From a neurophysiological perspective, an incomplete task forms a pathological conditioned reflex arc, a chain of nerve cells through which nerve impulses circulate, but the functional system never receives the signal that the task is complete. This impulse will circulate until the task is either completed or consciously canceled. This phenomenon was described by Bluma Zygarnik, a Soviet psychologist, in her Zygarnik effect. Unfinished tasks occupy more space in memory and create constant tension. Unfinished business isn't just a list in your notebook. It's constant background brain activity that depletes cognitive resources and maintains a state of anxiety. Factor 3. Unfinished relationships. Most often, we're talking about unresolved resentments. This is emotional baggage we carry for years, often without even realizing it. Metaphorically speaking, these are stones we place in our pockets and gradually forget about, but they continue pulling us down. At age 28, the human body triggers a process called anthropoptosis, programmed cell aging. This is a natural biological mechanism. But unfinished emotional relationships, especially chronic resentments, accelerate this process. The problem is that the resentment situation has no resolution. You're hurt, but you take no action. Which means that pathological conditioned reflex arc continues functioning constantly, draining energy and maintaining a chronic state of anxiety. Factor 4. Self-deception and introjections. This is perhaps the most destructive factor. Sigmund Freud introduced the term introjection, the process by which external attitudes, values, and motives imposed by society or significant people are perceived by a person as their own. You're not pursuing your own goals. You're doing work you don't love. You're not living your own life. But since you haven't developed a clear understanding of your true needs, you don't realize the substitution has occurred. Your unconscious senses this disharmony and tries to stop you. First, gently. Attention span decreases. Memory worsens. Interest fades. You start forgetting, being late, procrastinating. Then more harshly, physical manifestations, injuries, falls, illnesses. This isn't coincidence, it's psychosomatic. If you continue ignoring the signals, your unconscious reaches a logical conclusion. Why should you live if achieving your goals won't satisfy your real needs anyway? And it launches a self-destruction mechanism by accelerating anthropoptosis. Carl Rogers, one of the founders of humanistic psychology, spoke about the necessity of congruence, alignment between the true self and behavior. The absence of this congruence is self-deception. Factor 5. Guilt, shame, and inflated expectations. These three phenomena are closely connected and form a powerful mechanism for energy loss. Guilt is an experience directed toward another person. Shame is an experience before yourself. Both states are frequent causes of neuroses and chronically elevated cortisol levels. As for inflated expectations, it's crucial to understand the formulas for motivation and emotion. Motivation equals desired image minus current state. The brighter the image and the worse the current state, the stronger the motivation. This works during the pursuit phase, but when you achieve your goal, a different formula kicks in. Emotion equals actual result minus expectations. Notice, the emotion formula doesn't include the past, doesn't include how much effort you invested, Only the difference between what you got and what you expected to get matters. Practical example. You're in a city where it's minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 30 degrees Celsius, and you're planning a trip to the Maldives, where it should be 86 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Celsius. Your motivation is a 108-degree difference. With this motivation, you're willing to spend money, time, endure inconveniences. But upon arrival, you find it's raining and only 59 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 degrees Celsius. Objectively, you're 81 degrees warmer, but subjectively, you experience negative emotion because 59 minus 86 equals negative 27. You're unhappy not because it's objectively bad, but because reality didn't match expectations. An inadequate understanding of how the world works, inflated expectations, unwillingness to accept result variability. These are all powerful mechanisms for psycho-emotional energy loss. Part 3. Practical solutions. Understanding the mechanisms is the first and most important step. Then comes the work, and here are several directions. Information diet. Ask yourself, do you need all the information you consume? Many people now are switching to a curated information consumption model, getting pre-processed, structured data to avoid wasting resources, filtering informational noise. Worldview formation. This is understanding how the world works and recognizing your place in it. If you don't have a worldview framework, any new fact becomes garbage because you have nowhere to integrate it. There's the Dunning-Kruger effect. A person who doesn't know something doesn't even know how much they don't know. And it's better not to know than to know incorrectly, because false knowledge creates an illusion of competence and leads to erroneous actions. Emotional work techniques. There are specific methods for working with guilt, resentment, and shame. You can master these independently or with a therapist's help. Setting authentic goals. Goals must align with your true needs, your personality structure, your predispositions. Hearing yourself is separate work, but it's what allows you to realize what you truly want. Working with fear. When fear arises, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Take the scenario to its logical conclusion, find a backup plan, an alternative exit. Often, you'll discover the worst-case scenario isn't a catastrophe, but an inconvenience you can handle. Having an action plan calms the amygdala and reduces anxiety. Stress relief techniques. Physical activity, breathing practices, meditation. Anything that helps metabolize stress hormones. Professional help. Therapy isn't a sign of weakness. It's a tool for self-improvement. A professional therapist helps you find yourself, conserve energy, redistribute resources using proven techniques for working with emotions, development, learning, and stress. Conclusion. Understanding these mechanisms isn't just theoretical knowledge. It's a practical tool for conserving and properly distributing life energy. We live in an era where the amount of information and stimuli exceeds our psyche's ability to process them effectively. That's precisely why a conscious approach to managing your energy becomes not a luxury, but a necessity. Thank you for your attention. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share which of these factors is most relevant to you. Let's learn to find and hear ourselves. See you next time.